Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Samech Beis on the Beis 62b of Maseches Kiddushin. We are starting from the very bottom line of the page. And actually, if we just look up to the fourth to last line, so the Gemara said, Amar Abaye says, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Rabbi Meir. All three of these Tanaim, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Rabbi, which is Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, and Rabbi Meir, Kulu Svir Lahu, all of them hold Adam Makne Davar Shelo Bala Olam. A person can transact on something that is not yet in the world. And the Gemara is going to go through where we see each of these. Rabbi Eliezer, it says, Ben Yaakov Hada Amran. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is what we already said. That was last week's Gemara, that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov was of the opinion that a person is able to separate Truma for the future, for after produce gets picked, gets harvested, even if that produce isn't really ba'olam yet. It's not yet even possible to harvest it yet. It's less than a third grown. We had different variations of what exactly Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov meant, how grown it would have to be, but it wasn't yet even pickable. It's not even ba'olam in a certain sense, and yet one is able to transact over it for when it comes ba'olam, when it registers and when it comes into the world fully. Okay, so now the Gemara says, Rebbe, where do we see that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi holds that you can transact over something that's not yet ba'olam? D'Tanya, as we learning a brisa. The top of Samech Gimel Amar Aleph, 63a, the Gemara says, the brisa quotes a pasuk, Lo saskir eved el adonav. One should, seemingly speaking to the Beis Din, to the court, it says, do not return a slave to his master. Now, what is this talking about? Right, Rashi says we're talking about it. It's a warning to Beis Din, don't return a slave to his master. So, who are we talking about here? Because if the slave ran away from his master, but he belongs to that master, why would we not return him? And if he was freed, then of course we don't return him. So who are we talking about? So the Gemara explains, the Brisa says, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, Bilokeach eved al manas l'shachrero hakasav medaber. The Torah would be referring to a very specific case. The case is where somebody buys an eved, buys a slave from someone else, al manas, on condition that he's going to free him. Heichidami, and what would be the case? How would that happen? So Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Kigon, for example, Dekasav le, he writes him a shtar, a document to free him, that says, L'kishe'ekachacha harei atzmecha kanai lach me'achshav. When I buy you, when I purchase you, you are transacted, you are acquired to yourself from this moment. So in that case, the Eved never really becomes the property of the master. As soon as the master buys him, he is freed. And that would be the case where the Torah is telling us that if this Eved receives this document, and I guess is purchased by that master, don't bring him to him because he is already freed as soon as he is purchased. Okay, I think here you might also be able to ask that's seemingly obvious. I'm not sure what the answer would be, but maybe it's just less obvious of a case. Or perhaps, actually now as I'm thinking it through, maybe that is the Chiddush. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi would say, look, this could be the only case. And yes, it's not ba'olam yet, right? So how is this a proof? So this is a proof that we see that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi holds that you can be makne davar shelo ba'olam, because here this master is freeing the slave before he even owns him. So his ownership, the status of ownership, is not yet here yet, and he's already freeing him, and yet it works. So he can put that into motion already now before he even purchases him. So that's davar shelo ba'olam, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is saying it works. And the chiddush, the novelty of the verse, would be that works. And that's why the Torah has to warn the Beis Din that this works, so don't return him. You might think it doesn't work, and therefore, if he writes this, you would return him to the master, because you can't free him before he owns him. But the Torah says, no, don't return him. You could free him before he owns him, That's at least how Rabbi Yehuda Nasi would interpret this verse. And so he's transacting over something that's not ba'olam yet. He's already freeing the slave. That's a transaction before it's ba'olam, before it's even relevant, because he doesn't even own him yet. But yet it seems that would work. Okay, Rabbi Meir. And Rabbi Meir Ditanya. Where do we see Rabbi Meir holds Adam Maknan Davar Shelo Ba'olam? A person can transact over something that's not yet in the world. Ditanya, because we're learning a brisa, and the brisa reflects our Mishnah back on Samach Beis Amud Aleph. The brisa says, Ha'omer le'isha. If a man says to a woman, Hareat mikudeshes li la'achar she'esgayer. You are betrothed to me after I convert. So he's not Jewish. Someone who's not Jewish cannot give Kiddushin. But he says, you'll be betrothed to me after I convert. Or, la'achar she'tisgairi, or after you convert. La'achar she'eshtachrar, after I am set free, if it's a slave. And he says, again, a slave cannot give Kiddushin. But he says it will take effect after I'm freed. La'achar she'tishtachrari, or she's a slave, she can't receive Kiddushin. He says, after you are freed. Or she is married, and he says, right, he can't give Kiddushin to a married woman. He says it should take effect after your husband dies. Or he is married to this woman's sister. He can't marry her because he's married to her sister, but he says after your sister dies, his wife, then this should take effect and you should be mikudeshes to me. Or she has fallen to Yibum, and he gives her Kiddushin. He says this should take effect after your Yavam gives you chalitza. In all those cases, Eina Mikudeshes, the Kiddushin does not work. And this brisa reflects the opinion of our Mishnah as well. It doesn't work. Why? Because it's a lo ba'olam. It's not in the world yet. It's not possible for him to give Kiddushin in these circumstances, either because there's something that prevents him from being able to give Kiddushin. He's not Jewish yet. He's a slave. Or it could be something that prevents her from being able to receive Kiddushin. She's not Jewish, or she's a slave, or there's something mutual, sort of. He's married to her sister, or she's married, any of these things, but she's not in a state where she can receive Kiddushin from him, so even if he would try to set it in motion now, it wouldn't work even for later, because that's being makne davar shelo ba'olam. That's trying to transact over something that's not yet in the world. That's the Tanakama, that's the first opinion. But then the brisa continues, Rabbi Meir Omer, mikudeshes. Rabbi Meir says, she's mikudeshes, she's betrothed. When she converts, when her husband dies, whenever this comes into play, but even though he set it in motion before, it works. Rabbi Meir holds, Adam makne davar shelo ba'olam, you can transact over something even if it's not yet in the world. Rabbi Yochanan HaSandalar Omer, Eina mikudeshes. Then he quotes another opinion. Rabbi Yochanan HaSandalar says it's not Kiddushin. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Omer mikudeshes, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says it is Kiddushin, but umatam Omer eina mikudeshes. But yet, the sages still say that the Kiddushin does not work, at least in a couple of these cases. Mishum Eva, because of Eva. Eva is like hate. They'll come to despise each other, and that is referring to the case where he says, he says to her, you should be mikudeshes. After your husband dies. So that is going to cause, if she accepts that, that's going to cause hate between her and her husband. So that the rabbis say, no, that's not going to work. As well, if in the case where he's married to her sister, if he gives her Kiddushin and says, this will take effect when your sister dies, which is his wife, that's going to cause Eva, that's going to cause hate between him and his wife. So that also is not going to work, mid'Rabbanan rabbinically. But Rabbi Yehuda Nasi still holds that the other cases will work, and really technically this works, but Mishum Eva, because of hate, the rabbis don't allow it to work. So the Gemara says, so we have Rabbi Meir though holding that you can be makne davar shelo ba'olam, or you can transact over something even though it's not in this world yet, even though they're not in a status where Kiddushin can take effect, but he can initiate it, he can put it into play to take effect for when they reach that status. Now the Gemara asks, V'nachshov nami Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. We should count Rabbi Yehuda Nasi in the list also, because in this brisa he also holds Adam makne davar shelo ba'olam. He said because of Eva, because of hate, sometimes it's not going to work mid'Rabbanan, but he holds that it works, and he holds it works in the other cases. So the Gemara says, Hainu Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Yeah, we did. We mentioned Rebbe. Rebbe is Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. It's the same person. So we already counted him from before because we had another source that he holds Adam Akna Davar Shelo Ba La'olam. The Gemara asks, V'nachshav Nami Rabbi Akiva. We should count Rabbi Akiva on the list as well. Titania, because we're learning a brisa. If a person says, actually a woman says, Konam Shani Osa Leficha, that that anything that I produce should be konam to your mouth. Should konam is a language of neder. Should be forbidden. So there's usually a agreement, a sort of a built-in agreement between a husband and a wife, and that is that the husband is responsible for providing his wife with food, with mizonos, and and in exchange, her ma'aseh yadayim, anything that she produces up to the value of that food, is his. So he takes the money that she earns, and in exchange he provides for her. So let's say she says, Konam, she says a neder that Shani Osa, whatever I produce, whatever I earn, will be forbidden to your mouth, will be forbidden to you. So Rabbi Akiva says, the brisa, excuse me, not Rabbi Akiva, the brisa, the first opinion of the brisa says, Ein tzarech lahafer. He does not need to nullify this vow. She's not allowed to make such a vow. It doesn't even take effect because he has rights to those ma'aseh yadayim, to her production, and she can't forbid it on him. It's not hers to forbid on him. Actually, I see there's a girsa that this is actually a Mishnah. So it's a Mishnah in, I assume it's Maseches Nedarim, but this is a Mishnah. So again, if a woman says that whatever the production of my hands, my ma'aseh yadayim, what I earn, should be forbidden to you, she's not allowed to do that, so the vow doesn't take effect. Rabbi Akiva says, Yafer, he should nullify it. Why? Shema tadif alav yeser min araylo, because lest she actually produce more than what he is deserving of. So she's only required to give him a certain amount. The Gemara discusses how much. The Gemara in Ksubos. But whatever that amount is, let's say she earns a lot. She earns more than what she's supposed to get, needs to give him. So that's hers. So here, though, she made a vow that he won't be able to benefit from that. Now, he has the right to nullify that vow. That's a husband's right to nullify vows that are relevant to him and his wife and his shalom bayis, his harmony in the home. So he has a right to nullify certain vows. So Rabbi Akiva says he should nullify this because she may produce more than what he deserves. So then there's going to more than what's coming to him. What he's going to get, she's not allowed to forbid on him, and it won't work. But maybe she'll produce more, so he should nullify that vow. So he's not forbidden to benefit from her extra production. So now that whatever that is, it's not ba'olam yet. She's taking a vow on something that doesn't exist. So it seems like she is, Rabbi Akiva holds, Rabbi Akiva is concerned that her vow could take effect on something that's not yet ba'olam, it's not in the world. So we should add Rabbi Akiva to the list of those who hold you can transact, or here in this case you could take a vow over something that's not yet in the world. So that the Gemara answers, Ha'itmar Allah, it was already said about this, that Amar Rav Huna, Braid Rabbi Yoshua, Rav Huna said in the name of Rabbi Yoshua, Be'omeres, we're talking about where she says, Yikadshu yadai le'osehem, that my hands should be holy, or in this case, I guess, forbidden, for what they produce, for what they make. So V'yadayim is nu'olam, and her hands are in the world. So she's not forbidding, the vow isn't taking effect on what she actually produces. The vow is going on her hands. The L'oseim actually means to the one who created them. So she's saying my hands should be holy to God, but she's forbidding her hands and the benefit of her hands to her husband. Whatever my hands create will be forbidden to you. That's basically what she's saying. These hands, their production should be forbidden to you. So that's taking effect on her hands, which are ba'olam, they're in the world. Now, she can't do that on the things that he has a right to. That's beyond her beyond her rights. But she could do it for the things that he doesn't deserve. That if she produces more than what she has to give him, and that's what Rabbi Akiva was concerned for. But we don't see that Rabbi Akiva holds that you can transact over something that's not in the world, because here it was a vow that was taking effect on her hands, which are already in the world. Okay, new Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Omer le'isha, if a man says to a woman, Hareat mikudeshes li amana she'adaber alecha lesalton. A man says, you are betrothed to me on condition that I speak to the sultan, to the government on your behalf. So there's some benefit that he could provide for her by speaking to the government. And the simple reading of this Mishnah would be that that's the Kiddushin. That's a benefit, it's worth something. And he is telling her that you'll be mikudeshes to me in exchange that I will give you a monetary benefit by speaking to the government on your behalf. Or he says, you'll be mikudeshes to me, you'll be betrothed to me, on condition that I work for you. And again, that has a monetary benefit, and that seems to be what the Kiddushin will be. So if Diber Aleh L'Salton, if indeed he went and spoke on her behalf to the government, or he went and worked for her, Mikudeshes, it's a good Kiddushin, again, seemingly because he gave her something of value. V'imlav eina Mikudeshes. But if not, if he doesn't do it, if he doesn't follow through, then there's no Kiddushin here. Naturally, right? That's what it would seem. If he doesn't provide her anything, then there's no Kiddushin. So that would be the simple reading of the Mishnah. However, the Gemara quotes Reish Lakish, who tells us that that's not what's going on in this Mishnah. Amar Reish Lakish says, V'ushenasan la'shava pruta. We're talking about where he gave her a pruta. He gave her a pruta for Kiddushin, and he said, here's a pruta for Kiddushin, and you should be mikudeshes to me on condition that I speak to you on your behalf to the government, or that I work for you. So that wasn't the Kiddushin. The monetary benefit of what he was doing on her behalf was not the Kiddushin. Rather, the Kiddushin was the pruta that he gave her. That was there was a condition attached to it, which was on condition that I also go and speak to the government for you, or that I work for you. So the Gemara wonders, why didn't Reish Lakish just learn this Mishnah kipshuto, the simple understanding that he was giving her the schar, basically, that she wouldn't have to pay him for the benefit that he was giving her. That would seem to be the Kiddushin, that he's letting her off. He's giving her a benefit, and she doesn't have to pay him for it. That would be the Kiddushin. The Gemara asks for schar, for monetary benefit, like working on her behalf. That can't be the Kiddushin, v'hatanya, but we're learning a brisa. Bischar, if he says to her, you should be mikudeshes to me, bischar shehir kavticha chamar. For the price that I gave you a ride, past tense, that I gave you a ride on a donkey, or shavtich bekar on besvina, or I gave you a ride in a wagon or in a boat, eina mikudeshes. She's not mikudeshes, because there it was in the past. He said, I gave you a ride, you owe me money for that. Or I took you on a ride in a boat, and you owe me money for that. For that benefit, for that schar, you'll be mikudeshes to me. Bryce says that doesn't work. Now this relates to what we've learned, earlier in the Masechta, that's like a milveh. That's like a loan. At this point, he completed the job. She owes him money. So he's not giving her anything right now. He's not giving her a benefit right now. And that won't work for Kiddushin. However, if he says bischar she'arkivcha ala chamar, but if he says for the value that I will give you a ride on a donkey, or she'oshivcha b'karna b'svina, that I will give you a ride in a wagon or a boat, mikudeshes, that is a good Kiddushin. Now, you might say, hachanami b'diavu hashava pruta. No. Rish Lakish might say, no, you misunderstood the story there. The story there is he gave her an actual pruta, and it was on condition that I give you a ride too. So no, that can't be. V'ha kamar. It says for the schar, for the wages of this ride. That's going to be the Kiddushin. So he's giving her a benefit right now by giving her a free ride, and she's not going to have to pay for it, and that's the Kiddushin there. So why does Reish Lakish have to rewrite our Mishnah? Why can't it just be that the Kiddushin is for, the wages of him going to speak to the Sultan or for working for her? The Otanya, we have another brisa. The brisa says that if the woman says to him, Shevi mi b'tzavsa, sit with me together, v'kadesh lecha, and as a benefit, in exchange for that, I will become your wife, I will be betrothed to you. So she wants his company, his protection, whatever it might be. She wants him to sit with him, and she says, sit with me, and that will be the Kiddushin. Or schok lefana, she says, joke before me. Do some stand-up comedy before me. Or she says, Rikod lefanai, dancing in front of me. Or she says, Asa kedimos hazeh. She says, build something like this building for me. So then, Shaman, we evaluate im yesh bo shava pruta, if whatever it is that he does for her is worth the shava pruta, is worth the pruta mikudeshes. It's a good kiddushin. V'im la veina mikudeshes. And if not, it's not a good kiddushin. Now there again, what's going on? He's doing an act that has value, and that's the Kiddushin. Now, you might say there too, that there it's talking about he gave her a pruta, and it was just an attached condition. He really was giving her a pruta, and it was on condition that he also danced for her, or something like that. But it doesn't sound like that from the brisa. But the brisa says shamin, we evaluate how much this act is worth. Now, if he gave her a pruta, it wouldn't matter how much the act was worth. Clearly, the Kiddushin is the act itself, or the value of that act. So that seems to work. So tiyuvta de Reish Lakish. So this seems to be a refutation of Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish insisted that the Mishnah has to be a case where there was a pruta giving and there was just a condition attached. But why? Why can't it be that the case is that he gave her, that the Kiddushin was the act that he was going to perform on her behalf, the work he was going to, the value of that work. So the Gemara says, no, Amar l'cha Reish Lakish will tell you, Haitana bra savar, this brisa, basically Reish Lakish is going to say, no, it's a machlokas. It's a dispute between the brisa and the Mishnah. The brisa holds eina l'schiras elo levasof. The brisa holds that the schiras, the schar, the payment for the work is only due at the end. B'tangadi dan savar, and our Tana holds yeshna l'schiras mitchila bad sof. The payment accumulates from the beginning until the end. And what's the difference? The difference is whether a kiddushin like this will work. So if you hold that the payment is only due at the end, so then at the very moment that the work is complete, so instead of charging her, that becomes the kiddushin. He says, I'm not going to charge. Right now payment is due, and instead of having her pay, he lets her off. But there was never a loan there. There was never money owed, because as soon as the payment was due, he kind of made that value hers. But the Mishnah holds, says Reish Lakish, that no, schiras accumulates. When you do a job for someone, the payment accumulates as the job reaches fruition, and therefore it's owed. There's something owed from the very beginning, and it's building up, and so there it is more similar to a milva. It's like a loan, and it's money owed, and therefore that cannot be done. You can't use money owed for kiddushin. He's not giving her anything right now. She owes him money that he's not requiring her to pay, but he's not giving her anything right now, and therefore he says in the Mishnah, the kiddushin is not going to work. Now, the problem still is that, and the Gemara is about to ask this, is, okay, but where did Reish Lakish see this in the Mishnah? Ask the Gemara, "My dochkid Reish Lakish leukmei masisim biyeshna l'schirus mitchil v'atzov." What prompted, what forced Reish Lakish to say this and to make a machlokas, to make a dispute between the Mishnah and the Brisa? What was pushing him to say that the Mishnah held differently than the Brisa and held that the way that spheres, that working, doing a job for someone works, is that he accumulates from the beginning until the end. Ubediyavla, and therefore the case has to be that he gave her a pruta separately. So Amar Rava, so Rava explains, Masnisin Kashise, he had a problem from the Mishnah. Reish Lakish was bothered, he had a difficulty in the Mishnah. Because the Mishnah says that, he says to the woman, Haret Mekudeshes li, you're betrothed to me, al menas, on condition that I speak to the sultan, or on condition that I do a job for you. My irya detangi al menas. Says the Gemara, why does it need to specifically say al menas on condition? Nisni bischar. He should have said, you're mekudeshes to me for the value, for the schar, for the payment, in exchange for the payment that you would owe for the job I'm about to do. Why does he say the words al menas, on condition that I go? Elash mamino, we learn from here, kol al menas, whenever it says al menas on condition, heicha diavlahu. The cases where he gave her a pruta, and the al menas is an attached condition. Because otherwise it shouldn't say al menas, it should just say, you are mikudeshes to me for the schar, for the reward, for the payment, in exchange for the payment that for the work that I'm about to do. But instead the Mishnah says al menas, says Reish Lakish, it's clear that he's making a condition here. And if he's making a condition, then it must be he's giving her a pruta for Kiddushin, and there's an attached condition, and it must be that the Mishnah holds that that yeshnam l'schirus b'tchila v'atzov, that the schirus itself, the job itself, cannot be the Kiddushin, because it's something that accumulates, it becomes like a milva, it becomes like a loan, and you cannot betroth the woman using a loan because he's not giving her anything at the moment. Okay, we will pause here and pick up from the Mishnah in Yirtzeh Hashem next time.